Hello and welcome to Unacademy, one-stop destination for English medium civil services aspirants. Welcome to this special session where we talk about the subject of geography and environment and how to strategize your preparation for these particular subjects. Now, why should you watch this video? When you have so much amount of information flooding in the market around these subjects, will this video add certain value? The answer is yes. Because when the candidates they begin their preparation for civil services, these are the two areas which oftentimes appears to be cumbersome because of the slight technical nature and also because of the nature of the syllabus. That is why many of the candidates are full of hesitations and confusions about how to approach the subject, which particular books to refer to, what should be the sources of current affairs, how to consolidate the preparation, and how to tackle the type of questions that UPSC is throwing at you. Should we concentrate only on national parks and the wildlife reserves? Should we concentrate only on the portion of mapping? Or is there something more to the preparation that we have been ignoring? For all these various different kinds of doubts, this video is your destination. Now here, before initiating the discussion, we also have to understand that this subject of geography and environment, they are not out of different realms of different worlds. Many of the aspirants, they commit this mistake. They treat these subjects as very different. But in actuality, environment is nothing but the logical derivation and application of the concepts that you study in geography. Today, I stand in front of you to tell you about and guide you about the perfect method in which you can reduce your burden for both these subjects, and you should be able to score big come the time of prelims or the mains examination of civil services. But before we initiate the discussion, an announcement regarding the optional. Now, due to various different requests and various queries regarding the optional in complete English medium, we are happy to announce that on Unacademy platform for the first time, we are launching two of the subjects in complete English medium, that is geography optional as well as history optional. Both these subjects are scoring and both these subjects are significantly important even for your GS paper. So if you are interested in attending any of these optional classes, do attend them. Geography optional will be starting from 24th of June from 1:30 p.m. to 4 p.m. every day for 2.5 hours from Monday to Saturday, and overall for a duration of around 150 days, we shall go for the comprehensive coverage of the optional syllabus, what is required for the exam, the portions to focus upon. Substantial amount of effort will go into answer writing guidance, one-to-one mentoring, as well as the paper evaluation should be ensured and would be ensured in order to enable you to maximize your marking ability in the mains exam. Sufficient attention will be paid even on the portion of mapping, which is also relevant for the geography optional. So if you are interested in increasing your marks in the mains exam, do join us live for this particular optional starting from 24th of June. Use this code to avail maximum discount possible. Having said that, let us initiate the discussion for the subject of geography first of all. That why is it that this subject is important for the exam? Should we ignore this subject and concentrate on the other portions only? The answer is no. Regardless of whether you like the subject or not, whether you like the technical nature of the subject or not, it is a subject of great importance both in the prelims as well as in the mains exam. So here, first of all, let us understand the relevance of the subject of geography. And after that, we shall try to form an interlinkage about why is it that studying the subject carefully is important for you in order to ace even the portion of environment and ecology. So the subject of geography has got its relevance significantly in the prelims examination. I'll show you the pattern and the number of questions which have been asked in the prelims exam from geography year after year. But even when it comes to mains examination, which is the final hurdle, which is the make or break, which decides whether you get into the merit list or whether you are preparing for the prelims exam next year as well, the relevance of the subject of geography spans beyond GS paper 1 itself. In the mains examination in GS paper 1, you get questions roughly around for 105 to 110 marks directly from the subject of geography. And that is huge. Out of 250 marks in GS paper 1, where you have subjects such as society, history, art and culture, etc., if you have 105 to 110 marks which are from a particular subject, and if you know how to score in that subject, you have got a significant advantage. But as I told you, the questions are even beyond GS paper 1. In GS paper 3, you have topics and questions from the subject and the area of agriculture, even environment ecology, the questions which you should be able to solve once you have a clear-cut concept of the subject of geography. So in GS paper 3 also, if you consider the portion of environment, agriculture taken together, you will be able to find questions roughly around 85 to 90 marks. And agriculture is something that you prepare with the subject of geography and also some portions of it with the subject of economy. So overall, if you see, roughly around 200 marks in the mains examination are dependent on your understanding of the subject of geography, which is quite significant. But more than that, sometimes even in the essay paper, you get questions such as management of India's border is a complex task. Now that basically means that you need to have an overarching idea about what the various different geophysical realities of the region are. How is it that the geographical realities sometimes have an influence on poverty, education, health? That is also something that you get asked in the essay paper. So overall, the relevance is quite huge. But then, the entry level is the prelims exam. Now, in the prelims examination, if you consider the subject of geography in itself, every year you get on an average around 15 to 16 questions in the prelims exam. You add that to the 14-15 questions that you get from environment ecology. So overall, you get roughly around 15 to 16 from geography, plus roughly around 14 to 16 from environment. So overall, every year in the prelims, you get roughly around 30 questions. 30 questions out of 100 is the weightage of geography and environment alone. That makes it the most relevant area in your preparation, which you cannot afford to ignore. But before we talk about how to strategize your preparation, one needs to be very clear about what is the syllabus. Now, syllabus for the subject of geography, which is mentioned in the notification itself, that syllabus is considered to be the brief and the shortest that UPSC has mentioned. If you take a look at the syllabus, this is what the notification mentions as the syllabus of geography: Indian and world geography, physical, social and economic geography of India and the world. What is the purpose behind this? Basically, UPSC wants you to understand the country and the world that you are living in. Now, within this one sentence is hidden multiple different books that one needs to cover and a vigorous preparation plan that one needs to be disciplined enough and regular to follow it. Now, when we talk about the detailed breakup of the syllabus, this is not very clear. So let us break it down. Let us understand which are the topics actually that one has to study and what are the topics that UPSC frequently visits, both in the prelims as well as in the mains. So overall, if you talk about this, the entire subject of geography can be divided broadly into two aspects. One is the case of the physical geography. Physical geography or geography of the world talks about the land areas around us, talks about the climatic conditions around us, talks about the oceans across the world and their properties. And with the help of the physical geography, you will be able to cover the entire world. Other than this, you have the classification of the Indian geography. Indian geography or geography of India is basically the application of physical geography in Indian context and understanding why is it relevant for us to understand where crops are grown in what particular proportion, what are the conditions required, what are the conditions of soil, vegetation in a particular region, and so on. So this is the broader classification. But then, what is in the detail? Let us understand. So the detailed syllabus breakup, if you will look at. So first of all, salient features of the world's physical geography. This is the most important area and the most important portion in the entirety of the subject of geography. So this will include the portion of geomorphology, the portion of climatology and oceanography. Now, with the help of these particular units, you will be able to study the entirety of the portion of the world. For example, if you have a fold mountain formation in the region of North America, how has it been created? Once you know the presence of the fold mountain in that area, automatically you will be able to deduce the vegetation of that area. Once you know about the vegetation of that area, you will be able to deduce the kind of species which live in that area, the kind of biodiversity which exists. That is where the linkage lies between geography and environment. But looking at each of these modules individually, when we say geomorphology, that is basically the study of the land and the landforms around us. So it would include the interior of the earth, the structure, the layers of the earth. Now this is something which UPSC uses in the prelims examination. It asks you questions from this area in the prelims examination only. Then you have, for example, rocks, plate tectonics, for example. Now this is relevant for the mains examination. This is one of the favorite areas of UPSC, where UPSC has repeated the question in the mains examination multiple times. You need to understand the concept of continental drift theory, the seafloor spreading theory, and the various different theories which have helped us understand the present day original shape of the continents and oceans. Be it the convection current theory, the continental drift, how it has led us to the plate tectonic theory and what is the mechanism behind it. That in-depth knowledge is required. Just flipping through the pages and thinking about it, that the questions will be similar to that of what is the class 10th or 12th level, that will be foolish on our part. So this is very important. Then you have various physical phenomena, mountain building, volcanoes, earthquakes, weathering and erosion, rocks and landforms. UPSC focuses on geomorphology time and time again and asks you basic conceptual questions. If I have to triangulate the most important topics out of this, for your prelims, the most important topics are the interior of the earth, the nature of the rocks, the aspect of volcanoes and earthquakes, and also weathering and landforms. These are the areas that you can focus upon for your prelims. But when it comes to the mains examination, plate tectonics, then aspect of mountain building, that fold mountain, the volcanic eruption, volcanoes and earthquakes, these are relevant for your mains exam. For example, why is it that the region around Pacific experiences frequent eruption of volcanoes and frequent seismic or earthquake activities? Is again a question that UPSC has asked multiple times, both in the optional as well as in the GS paper. So that is something that you have to concentrate upon. That is something you have to focus upon. Now, other than this, when we talk about the most important area in the entirety of the subject of geography, that is the portion of climatology. Hands down, when it talk about the pattern of the question paper this year, previous year, year before that, the pattern of the question paper might change from very conceptual to very factual. But regardless of the type of question, you will get one or the other topics from the portion of climatology. So you cannot ignore this. Here, be it the atmospheric phenomena, that is jet stream, Indian Ocean dipole, El Nino southern oscillation, be it the basic of atmosphere and the layers of atmosphere, the aspect of temperature distribution, isotherms, something which has been asked in 2024 prelims as well, jet streams, pressure and wind system, the tricellular model of circulation, air masses, the naming, nomenclature, fronts, cyclones, very, very important, humidity, the types of it, precipitation, climatic classification of the entire world. This needs to be covered in detail in the portion of climatology. Now here, UPSC does a particular trick. Any particular area which is in news, let's suppose it is in news that the troposphere is experiencing a significant warming or something like that. UPSC will ask you a question associated with troposphere. And it will be a kind of a derived question, a derived concept. So again, a detailed understanding and reading of the content is very important. Every year, this is one of the scoring areas that UPSC throws at you. And you have to maximize it, and that will happen only if you are able to interrelate it. Interrelate not only the various chapters, but interrelate the concepts of geomorphology from the concepts of climatology as well. Then comes one of the easier portions of oceanography. Now, oceanography or study of the oceans, what is it about? About the physical properties of oceanic water, temperature, salinity, circulations induced because of this, movement of oceanic water, waves, tides, ocean currents, and also the ocean bottom relief, seamount, submarine canyons, oceanic trenches, deep sea plains. These oceanic resources also handle a wide variety of biodiversity, again making them very important and very relevant. This is comparatively easier. You won't find questions coming from this every year in the prelims, but in the mains examination, you will find questions associated with this. And also very relevant if you want to understand the portion of environment, particularly the marine species such as, let's suppose, kelp and kelp vegetation, seaweeds. These are the areas, corals and coral reefs and the bleaching of the corals. You get questions from there. But the concept of that is not something that you study in environment and ecology, but the concept of that is something that you study in the subject of geography itself. Then when we talk about the portion of Indian geography and the important geophysical phenomena, this also acquires some relevance. What do we mean by important geophysical phenomena? Such as, let's suppose you have occurrence of landslides. This is important. UPSC can ask you why and which area experiences landslides. Then, for example, floods. The reasons for the frequent floods in the region of Bihar, Assam. And also, when we talk about, let's suppose, events such as cloudbursts or hailstorms. Something that you observe with great frequency nowadays, what are these? And how do they influence life? So this again is frequently asked. So these kind of geophysical phenomena, you need to know the concept and also impact on day-to-day life. Day-to-day life. That is very important. Other than this, when we talk about the world geography, how important is the world geography? So world geography should always be targeted with the lens of current affairs. This is where again the dynamic portion of geography comes into play. So here, distribution of key natural resources across the world. Now let's suppose if you have lithium which is found anywhere. The expectation of the candidate is that if lithium has been found in Riyasi district, then UPSC will ask that lithium has been found in which district. But that is the type of question that you get in state services. That is a question that you get in lower grade examination. UPSC can ask you about what do you mean by a lithium triangle, which is the largest producer of lithium in the world. The utilities of lithium when it comes to electric vehicles and sustainable energy. Those are the kind of areas that are driven by current affairs. Then South Asia and the Indian subcontinent, what are the various resources, factors responsible for the location of various industries in various parts of the world? agricultural practices across the various parts of the world, agriculture across different parts of the world, and the economic activities in brief. That is, when you talk about, let's suppose, trade imbalances, etc., something that you study in the portion of IR, something that you study in the portion of even economy, you need to have the geographical understanding of that. Now, how do you get that? How do you get the entire aspect from industrial location to the distribution of natural resources? For that, physical geography, particularly geomorphology, needs to be having a clear concept. Only then can you have a derivation of this and an application of this. Now, this is something that you need to concentrate upon. Indian geography, which areas to concentrate upon? We'll talk about it briefly. But before that, we come to the book list. This is one of the most anxious questions that students throw at us, that what should be the books that we should follow? Should we buy Majid Hussain? Should we buy G.C. Leong? That topper has told this particular book. Should we buy Savinder Singh? Etc., etc. So always remember one basic fact in life. Always advisable to keep your material list to the minimum. It is better to be able to read the same book 10 times rather than reading 10 different books that you will be able to cover only once. Revision is the key to success in the civil services exam. So for the book list, always refer to the NCERTs. NCERTs should be your go-to reference. NCERTs of which class? NCERTs of classes 11th and 12th. Ideally, you should be able to understand these NCERTs because these are written keeping in mind the school-going students. But let's suppose you are not very comfortable with 11th and 12th NCERT, only then go for the entire coverage, first of all from 6th to 10th, and then follow it up by the 11th and 12th NCERT. Now 11th and 12th, you don't have one NCERT, you have basically multiple different NCERTs available. You have to be able to cover them. But if you are going for 6th to 10th, that is when you have to go for each one of them separately. These are the book lists for, or the NCERTs for 6th to 10th. And this should be done only when the 11th and 12th NCERTs, they are not very clearly understood. These are the books for 11th and 12th NCERTs that one has to follow. Now here also understand one thing. NCERTs you might have studied in the school as well. But when you are studying for civil services and the subject of geography in civil services, your approach needs to change. You cannot restrict your study methodology to the fact that I have flipped through the pages, I have seen the questions at the back, I am able to solve it, it is good to go. No. When you take a look at these particular books, each and every sentence of NCERT has to be paid maximum attention to. Each and every sentence and each and every paragraph is worthy of one particular concept. So you should be able to develop that concept as well. So in-depth understanding of all these fundamentals of physical geography, giving you an idea about the physical aspect of geography, geomorphology, climatology, oceanography, heat budget of Earth, heating, greenhouse effect, that is very important. Then India's physical geography, that is the physiographic divisions of India, the river systems of India, the drainage pattern of India, the forest, soil, that also gains particular importance. Then we also have the candidates frequently asking that, okay, you have said physical geography and Indian geography, what about human and economic geography and biogeography? So biogeography earlier used to be the area from where UPSC could ask questions about the species, about the flora, fauna, biodiversity, etc. But now you have a separate demarcation for that in the subject of environment ecology. So biogeography, now in the subject of the main geography area, you only have to study the portion of soil and natural vegetation. Soil and natural vegetation. Now how do you study about that? So we will talk about it in the approach. And what is there in the portion of human and economic geography? So when we talk about industrial location, when we talk about agriculture, when we talk about population, settlement, that is something included in the portion of the economic and human geography relevant from the Indian context. Here, the world context takes a backseat and the Indian context drives it forward. So this should be your target study material. If not understood, then this is the material that should be your fallback option. After that, graduate into the 11th and 12th class NCERTs. Now, one of the best friends that you need to have for the study and the coverage of geography is the atlas. Because map pointing is the one which gives a lot of anxieties. Many people pay significant amount of attention to cover maps. But sadly, many of the times, the preparation is restricted to maps only. Here, you have to develop an approach which is different from the masses. What is the approach I am talking about? Now, generally in the market, you will find that if UPSC has asked a question that which of these areas are closest to Delhi in terms of longitude, after that, all the educators, all the candidates, they start learning about the longitude of the various places and the various cities. UPSC is never going to repeat that again. But every year you are spending time in that, you are wasting time in that. If UPSC has asked a question about arranging these areas from north to south, candidates till now have been ratifying the various capital cities from north to south. UPSC has not repeated that. So majority of the candidates, they chase the questions that because UPSC has asked this previously, let me ratify it so that if it asks again, I will be able to solve. But that is not how the questions are framed. UPSC wants you to get involved in that merry-go-round of chasing the questions. Next year, there will be different set of questions, different set of mapping questions, and what is there for the publishers? Publishers will include one other extra page for the map. The educators will start talking about an extra portion of map, but it is the candidates who have not been able to solve. So how do we approach maps? So this atlas and the entire mapping portion in general needs to be explorative. Explorative rather than rote learning. What do we mean by that? So I'm sure many of you still would not be aware about the various countries in South America, various physical features in North America, Europe, Africa, Asia, Australia, etc. Now you should explore that. Explore not by going there yourself, but explore that by understanding what is it and where is it that a particular physical region is located. When we talk about the Rockies, when we talk about the Andes, where are they located? That is how you explore the atlas. Rather than relying upon a list circulated in the market that locate this, and like a 6-year old, you start pointing that out and you feel happy that the map pointing is done. Basically, what you are doing is you are putting your fate in the basket of those lists. If a question is asked from the list, fair enough, you have hit the bonanza. Otherwise, you are asked to repeat that again. So what you need to do in the case of maps, you need to integrate it with the portion of current affairs as well. How? Let's suppose, and I hope sincerely that you are following newspapers on a regular basis. Now let's suppose in the newspaper you come across any particular place which has been mentioned, any particular conflict which has been in news. Ask yourself honestly, do you know the exact location of this place? You might tell your friends that, okay, I know the near about region, I know about that, but you have to be honest with yourself. Let's suppose when we talk about the conflict between Armenia, Azerbaijan, Nagorno-Karabakh had been in news, it was asked. So immediately start locating those areas with the current affairs. Generally, you will find that the questions from the maps, they are from the places in news. It is not some random throw of dice which UPSC hands you out. It is the places in news which are basically asked. So that is where the places in news portion, that should be looked into the atlas immediately. And make it a habit, a weekly habit, that every week, at least twice, maybe after dinner, maybe when you have a low productive time period of your preparation, At that point of time, just open the atlas, flip through the pages, start exploring the world and explore the region around you. For example, let's suppose you belong from any particular state. Take a look at which are the boundary states around that. Which are the states bordering it? Whether it shares an international border or not. Whether Tropic of Cancer passes through it or not. Which are the major rivers in your state? This is not only going to make the entire mapping portion very easy for you, but at the same time, you will be staying a step ahead of the competition. You will be having the ability to predict. For example, in 2023-24, the region of Red Sea was in a lot of news because of the commercial shipping lanes under attack by the Houthi rebels. Now, in 2024, UPSC asked 2 questions associated with Red Sea. Year before that, you had the Russia-Ukraine war, which was in news. So, while many of the candidates went to the exam hall expecting a question that Russia is fighting with whom? China, India, Pakistan or Ukraine. But that is not what UPSC is about. UPSC asked a question associated with the migration happening outside of Ukraine. So when this conflict was in news, many people migrated from the bordering regions of Ukraine into the surrounding countries. So UPSC asked a question, which are the countries which surround and border the region? That is the explorative portion and approach of map which will guide you through. No particular list in the world, no particular list by anyone is going to put you a step ahead. So follow this explorative approach. Then, what do we do for current affairs? What should be the sources of current affairs? So when we talk about current affairs, newspaper reading is must. Either the Hindu or the Indian Express. Any of the newspaper that you are comfortable with, you have to stick with that newspaper. Regardless of the fact that now my friends are studying Indian Express, they are saying it is good, should I also switch back? No. My friends are studying the Hindu, I am more comfortable with Indian Express, should I switch? No. Whichever newspaper you are comfortable with, be rigorous, be disciplined, be punctual, follow that for the period of complete 1 year. Other than that, take the help of certain magazines. Yojana, Kurukshetra. They are important. It helps you understand the aspect of the government schemes, the government schemes implementation. What are the impediments, what are the problems faced, and what are the relevant solutions being implemented. This will enrich not only the portion of your understanding of government schemes, but also the issues in urban area, issues in rural sector, rural and urban habitations as well. It will also help you develop case studies, which you will be able to highlight not only in your GS paper as an example, but it will also help you ace the essay paper. For example, let's suppose there has been a success story of a self-help group in Karnataka. That is something that you will read across. Now, what that self-help group has been, how the overall income has increased, that is relevant. Other than that, Down to Earth is a magazine that you have to study both for geography as well as environment. This is available, the entire content of Down to Earth is available online. So you can take a look at that, right? You don't need to spend separately for this. But this is something that I would always advise you because of the changing pattern of the questions in the mains exam, and also because of the various areas such as climate change, deforestation, soil degradation, those areas in news, you have to target this. Now, what should be your overall approach to study? Now, approach to study has to be different in both physical as well as Indian geography. But what should be the progression? Should we start the preparation with Indian geography? Should we start preparation with climatology? Should we start the preparation with map pointing? So here it is very important for you to understand that the syllabus needs to be covered in a particular chronology for you to be able to look at the larger picture. What is this larger picture that I am talking about? For that, understand why UPSC wants you to study geography. UPSC wants you to be able to solve the problems in your locality once you become an officer, to be able to solve the problems in your locality by having an adequate amount of information about the climate of the region, about the geomorphology of the region, about the water body of that region. So first of all, one needs to cover the portion of physical geography. Physical geography. And here also, ideally, if possible and as much as possible, you should follow the chronology of starting with geomorphology, because in geomorphology you start from the very basics of the formation of Earth, accretion theory for the formation of Earth. Then the interior of the Earth follows, then the formation of the landform follows. Now landform in a region influences the climate of the region, so that has to be followed by climatology, and then eventually oceanography. So that should be the chronology of approach in these three areas. Now, how do we approach this? How do we study this? Let's suppose you have opened the NCERT and you have opened a particular chapter with regards to plate tectonics. Let's suppose plate tectonics is a chapter that you have started reading. Now, you have studied something from the book. You have gathered content, let's suppose from class notes, any classes that you are attending. After that, should you sit back? No. After that, try to develop topic-based notes. This is very important, particularly for your revision and particularly even helping in answer writing and the mains exam. Develop your own individual topic-based notes. Now, these notes need not be so elaborate that if I show it in the market, people will buy it. That should not be the purpose of the notes. Notes should be as brief as possible, as small as possible, so that in the limited time window, you are able to revise the entire concept. So prepare these topic-based notes and enable it with the locational examples. Locational examples. For example, in plate tectonic, you study about the fact that the Pacific Ocean is shrinking from all sides and Pacific Ocean is surrounded by the volcanic eruptions and earthquake and seismic activities. So what are the examples of these plates? Where is it that the Pacific plate is undergoing subduction underneath the Eurasian plate? Where is it that the Nazca plate is involved? Those kind of detailing that needs to be present in the notes. By the end of the entirety of the physical geography, you will find that you not only have gained an idea about the world, but you have developed a concept in such a manner that now you have the ability to create a 50-word writing for any topic, but at the same time, if need be, around 250-word writing on the same content. That should be the aim. Now, other than this, when we talk about the Indian geography, but when it comes to importance in physical geography, understand few of the things very bluntly and very carefully. Climatology is the most important one. Climatology also, the concepts around climatology. Because UPSC twists the particular sentences to put you in hot water and then test your resolve, whether you are able to solve it or not. So climatology is very, very important. Oceanography is the one which will give you the easiest marks. Okay, this is where you will get the easiest marks. Why? Because here you don't have many twists in the concepts. This is straightforward. When we talk about geomorphology, this is where you need to develop a visualistic approach to study. For example, in majority of the books, you will find definition after definition flooding the text. For example, when we talk about erosional and depositional landforms, you'll find one definition after the other. Okay, this is natural levee, this is what is a point bar, this is what is a meander, this is what is an oxbow lake, this is an incised meander. Now, from our childhood days, we are conditioned in such a way that we start repeating that without properly understanding what they are. So develop a kind of a visualistic approach. Let's suppose you are unable to understand what is an incised meander. Immediately take a look or help from Google if possible and try to understand how do they look like. that is going to be the best solution for geomorphology. So geomorphology has to be approached in a visualistic manner. This is different from the convention, but that is what is going to be a long-lasting analysis and long-lasting thing in your mind. Okay, once you have conquered this, please ensure that the locational examples that you see in geomorphology, climatology or oceanography, this is looked at by the atlas or with the atlas on a daily basis or as frequently as you can, so that simultaneously mapping is also solved. Now, only after you have done this should you approach the portion of Indian geography, because Indian geography is nothing but the application of the concepts of physical geography. In India and in Indian geography, you have to cover the portion of physiographic divisions of India. Physiographic divisions. Now this you will be able to appreciate only when you have a clear concept of geomorphology. But once you are studying the physiographic divisions, this has to be studied with the locational aspect. Where is it that the Malwa Plateau is situated? Where is it that the Deccan Traps are situated? Where is it, for example, that the Chota Nagpur Plateau is situated? Now, what it will also help you to understand is that if you know that Chota Nagpur Plateau is created the earliest, you will automatically be able to deduce that this particular region has experienced maximum weathering and erosion. So now this particular plateau will be abundantly rich in minerals. After all, why is it so that only around 11 states of the country contribute to around 90% of the mineral extraction across the country? Why is it that when you read about any minerals, they would be found either in Jharkhand, Odisha, Chhattisgarh, Madhya Pradesh, Karnataka, Maharashtra, Rajasthan? These are the major states, and Andhra Pradesh, Telangana. Why is it so? So that in-depth information will come after studying the physiographic divisions. Then after that, Indian monsoons. I would suggest you that Indian monsoons is a chapter that you should be studying along with climatology, the physical geography. Because Indian monsoons have got a lot of variables, from Indian Ocean dipole having an influence to Madden-Julian oscillation to the jet streams, the subtropical westerly jet streams. Now these are the concepts that you study in climatology, and many of the aspirants, by the time that they come to the Indian geography, they forget it. So for majority of the aspirants, Indian monsoon is nothing but the amount of rainfall. That is not the syllabus. That is not the requirement. UPSC wants you to go into the depth. So marry this particular portion of Indian monsoon, join it with the portion of climatology. Okay. Then after that, you have river systems and drainage systems. Now again, when we talk about the rivers, locational aspect has to be focused upon. This is relevant, the drainage systems, this is something which is relevant wherever you have locational aspect involved. That is relevant for your prelims. Nowadays, UPSC has been asking mains question from this area as well. Rivers anyways has been one of the favorite topics for the mains and the interview process when you talk about the interlinking of rivers, frequent and yearly flooding of the region of Bihar and Assam plains. Those are the expected areas. Then you have biogeography, that is soil and natural vegetation. How do you approach that? Now when we talk about natural vegetation, there the conditions, the amount of rainfall required for any kind of forest, equatorial forest, right, for deciduous, moist deciduous forest. Now those conditions required and the regions where they are present, that is relevant for your prelims. But in the same forest, every 2 years you have a biennial report which is released, that is State of Forest in India report. That report also needs to be covered in detail for the mains exam. UPSC directly picks up that question. What are the findings of the report, of the State of India report 2021? You should be able to understand that. That is the portion of current affairs involvement. Similarly, when we talk about soil, now the basic of soil, which soil is found in which region, under what condition. Now, is that something that you will have to rote learn new? No, that is a natural derivative of the physiographic divisions. And those are the areas only relevant for the prelims. But when it comes to issues with soil, erosion, degradation, and desertification nowadays, then conservation of soil, these are the regions relevant for the mains exam. Then after that, when we talk about the human and economic geography aspect of it, agriculture, the type of crops, the cropping season, the conditions required, relevant for the prelims. Prepare short notes around it. And when we talk about the issues in agriculture, there you have to converge the concepts of overall agricultural crisis and the economic factors as well. Very scoring in GS paper 3. Then when we talk about minerals and industries, do we need to remember all the various different minerals? No. Understand one particular thing in life. As an aspirant, the most important resource that you are investing is time. So the time that you have invested, you should have the maximum return on investment for that time. So let's suppose you have spent around 2 weeks learning about the various different minerals. At max, every 3 years, you get one question. You might not get that question also. And even if there is a question, you might commit negative marking. So should you spend those 2 to 3 weeks for that one question which can appear in 3 years? No. Even the question which appears in the exam from the minerals, that is associated with the portion of current affairs. And the presence of certain minerals in certain parts of the country, again a derivation from the physiographic divisions. You find these linkages. For example, natural vegetation, the kind of forest that you find, is a derivation of the amount of rainfall received in a region. So once you find these linkages, it becomes easier. The burden becomes lighter. Industrial location, the conditions required, industrial corridors, again a derivative of current affairs. Then you have population and settlement, one of the easiest ones. Population and settlement. Here the basic NCERT is more than sufficient, along with the newspapers, because here demographic dividend, the aspect of sex ratio, literacy rate, these are asked. So that is how, if you follow this approach, the entire subject becomes easy. You simplify this subject. Do not overcomplicate it. Candidates have a tendency to overcomplicate the subject. So follow this particular strategy. And overall, if you take a look even at the type of questions, look at the type of questions that UPSC has been throwing at you. For example, this is a question of climatology. But overall, if you take a look at it, this is not only a question of climatology, but oceanography involved as well. This talks about in the tropical zone, within the tropics, western section of the oceans are warmer than the eastern sections owing to the influence of trade winds. So while trade winds is something that you study in the permanent wind system, the warming of the ocean and the cooling of the ocean due to upwelling and downwelling is something that you study in the portion of oceanography. So that tells you the importance of developing deeper concepts. Unless and until you don't have concepts, you will be left lurching from one fact to another, jumping from one video to another, that maybe I can score 2 marks from this video, maybe I can score 4 marks from this video, and that is what differentiates the people who secure a rank in the first attempt and the people who keep on trying. Even if you take a look at the question which was asked in 2024, water vapor, concept associated with that. Now, water vapor, is it present closest to the Earth's surface? Yes. Water vapor, does it induce warming? Yes. So here again, where more water vapor will be present, where there will be greater evaporation. Where is greater evaporation happening? At the region of equator or at the region of the poles? That is the logical conceptual analysis which will carry you through. And the paper of 2024 further strengthens that idea. Take a look at any kind of questions which were asked. Even when we talk about Coriolis force, this was not a question that Coriolis force bends the winds to the right or left. When the wind speed is high, Coriolis force is more. Directly picked up from NCERT. Tells you, you don't need to study the other books. Now, many of you have that also got the confusion. Should we study G.C. Leong? Should we study Majid Hussain? So, if you are studying the subject of geography only from the perspective of GS, you do not need to study any of these. Understand, G.C. Leong has not been written keeping UPSC in mind. G.C. Leong will only be able to enrich some portion of your physical geography. If you take a look at the questions for the past 10 years, you will not find a question where the content is present in G.C. Leong but is not present in NCERT. So if you have the same content available with the NCERTs also, why to complicate your study? Right? But if you are more comfortable with any of these, do follow this just to ensure that you are able to revise that. But here you might have a query that these questions are okay, but what about the mapping question? Take a look at the mapping question. Now the question of map, it was about which of the countries have borders with Afghanistan. Now is it a randomly thrown question at you? No. This was asked because Afghanistan was in news. Similarly, Ukraine was asked. Similarly, Nagorno-Karabakh was asked. Similarly, the islands of South China Sea were asked. So places in news. In the year 2024, questions from Red Sea were asked. Follow this approach. And once you develop the concepts, you are able to follow the current affairs. Always understand this current affairs is nothing but a derivation of the portion of the static. That is going to help you in the mains paper as well. The Himalayas are highly prone to landslides. Discuss the causes and suggest suitable measures. Landslides. Why in Himalayas? The slope is steep. Frequently, seismic activities occur in that region. Lot of rivers drain through that area, weakening the soil. Cloudburst events increase the saturation of water, inducing a flow. Lack of vegetation induces various impacts. All of these are nothing but the normal analysis that you can derive out of physiographic divisions of India, provided you have a clear concept of geomorphology. So those kind of questions, for example, formation of thousands of islands in Indonesian and Philippines archipelago. Why was this question asked? Simply because there was, when we talk about the volcanic eruptions, frequent volcanic eruptions in these areas, why do they happen? Because of the subduction of oceanic plate. One oceanic plate undergoes subduction under the other, and UPSC wants you to explain that mechanism. So that is the kind of question. For example, why are the world's fold mountain systems located along the margins of the continents, and bring out the association between the global distribution of fold mountains and earthquakes? Simple concept of geomorphology. That when we talk about fold mountains, how are they created? Once they are created, can these regions be prone to earthquakes? Yes. Will all the fold mountains experience volcanoes? No. Only the fold mountains created due to oceanic continental convergence or the other aspects can expect volcanoes. That is the conceptual analysis. If you have topic-based notes, you will be able to solve this. So overall, for the subject of geography, keep it simple, study the basics, follow the chapters that I have told you, and follow the approach. Once you have developed this concept, then the portion of environment and ecology is a natural derivation of it. When we talk about environment and ecology, what is it? Understand, in geography, you study about First of all, you study about the atmosphere, that is the air around us. You study about the lithosphere, that is the land on which we stand in geomorphology. You study about the hydrosphere in oceanography. And a culmination of all these three, a convergence of all these three, eventually influences the biosphere. So basically, environment ecology is nothing but the study of biosphere. If the atmosphere is experiencing greater heating, biosphere will be impacted, aspect of environment ecology. Environment ecology is also very, very important for your exam, both in the prelims and the mains. But you have to understand the examination pattern here. Environment and ecology is not mentioned separately in the notification. Environment and ecology, the questions associated with that would be the area of biogeography up till around 2013. It was from 2014 onwards when UPSC started stressing upon it. Why? Climate change, international organizations, they started grabbing headlines. That is why. So every year you get 15 questions, on an average, 15 questions in prelims. Out of these 15 questions, around 7 to 8 are from basic concepts. Basic concepts. Around 3 to 4 or 2 to 3 are from the portion of current affairs. And then the remaining 4 to 5 are factual in nature. They are factual in nature. The problem arises when the candidates, they look at these factual questions and they start preparing as per these factual questions. Ideally, you should basically target the concepts, and that will help you with the current affairs as well. And the factual questions, I will tell you certain sources from where UPSC has been stressing upon for the past few years as well, which I have been repeating in all the live sessions as well, that UPSC has been diversifying its sources from where it is picking up the questions. It would be foolish of us to expect UPSC to ask the same questions that it asked in 2015, 16, 17, 18, because we keep on studying the same things. We need to diversify our approach. So, what are the topics that we need to cover? Overall, the entire syllabus of environment can be reduced to these few topics. And you need to have a clear-cut concept and clear idea about it. For example, ecology, ecosystem, and biomes. This would include various different types of ecosystems. This has to include, for example, when we talk about the deserts, what are the adaptations that happen in a desert? Right? And when will you be able to understand that? When you know where deserts are present. Where do you study that? Climatology. Then, what are the adaptations that the species indicate in the savanna region? How will you be able to understand that? When you know that savannas are tropical grasslands. Less wet season, long dry season. Wildfires are very common. You know there is large vegetation areas of grasslands, no large trees, herbivores will be very significantly present in numbers. And where you have such large herbivores, carnivore population will follow. Again, an interlinkage. Then, for example, when we talk about wetlands, mangroves, these ecosystems need to be understood. The government schemes associated. Then ecological pyramids, biogeochemical cycles, that is oxygen cycle, nitrogen cycle, water cycle, carbon cycle, sulfur cycle, phosphorus cycle. If UPSC has been repeating questions from that area, and these areas are simple and can be covered easily, why not do that? Concentrate on this. Then pollution, different types of pollution. From marine pollution to air pollution to noise pollution. But just knowing what the pollution is it sufficient? No. What causes the pollution? What are the major chemicals involved in that pollution? Where do you get that information? Any coaching material that you are following, any classes that you are following, plus regular following of the current affairs. I will show you which portion of current affairs here also, the newspaper and down to earth. That should be your source. Okay, so when you are talking about the pollution, any international organization convention associated with that. For example, you had the Colombo Declaration, the national legislations, Water Act. As per the provisions of Water Act 1974, you had Central Pollution Control Board which was created, followed by the Air Act in 1981. Look at the details. Noise pollution is also included in the Air Act only. This can be used and exploited in the prelims. Environmental Protection Act, Biodiversity Act, Forest Act. Study these in detail. But overall, in the area of pollution. Then biodiversity. Now, when the candidates think about environment ecology, two things come to their mind. I have to learn the critically endangered species. I have to learn the national parks and wildlife sanctuaries. But apply your logic for a brief moment. There are more than 100 national parks. If you combine the wildlife sanctuaries and national park, they are around 700 in number. Along with that, you have more than 53-55 tiger reserves, around 33-34 elephant reserves, around 75 to, or now you have 82 Ramsar sites. You have biodiversity heritage sites. You have biosphere reserves. You have mega diverse countries. You have biodiversity hotspots. How many of them will you be able to learn? There is a limitation. Or do you spend your entire year only on this for that one question which can be asked? No. So look at the basics of species, invasive alien species, species in news, scales of biodiversity. Those are the basics that you have to look into. Then you have the conservation measures. What are the principles of conservation? In situ conservation, ex situ conservation. The norms under which Wildlife Protection Act works. The schedules of Wildlife Protection Act works under which condition? This is also frequently repeated in news, so easy to follow. Once you cover these basics, climate change, once you cover these basics, legislations and amendments and international conventions and organizations, that is a logical follow-up. For this, I would ask you to prepare short notes. Prepare notes. Again, which kind of notes? Topic-wise. For example, if there has been an amendment in the Forest Conservation Act, why has it been done? What is the observation of the Supreme Court? What is the famous Godavarman judgment, which is time and time being repeated in the editorials? If it is being repeated, chances are UPSC can pick a question from there. When we talk about, let's suppose, pollution, there also, along with that, which are the conventions involved? What is the Stockholm Convention? What is the Rotterdam Convention? What is the Basel Convention? That needs to be the approach. Once you develop short notes for each of these, then you wouldn't need to worry about this subject at all. At max, a question which will puzzle you is the factual question. Other than that, you will be in a good space. So what are the sources that you have to refer? Before I tell you the sources, understand the topics in detail. This is what the entire syllabus of environment ecology revolves around. These are the pillars. Now the sources, basically the newspaper, any of them, and Down to Earth magazine. The important articles of Nature. For example, let's suppose there has been a CASA summit. Where is that? What are those CASA countries? Why that summit has happened? Relevant, important. But UPSC has been asking some factual questions nowadays. For example, which of the species uses a stick of wood as an eating device to take out ants from the trees and feed itself? The answer was orangutan. Which of these species, by the fluttering of the wings, gives an indication of where the food is present? Honeybee. Which of these species follows the buffaloes and is able to gather the insects thereby? The egrets. Now, where are these questions coming from? And what do we study for this? In 2024, you had a question that lions, do they have a breeding season? Do the leopards, they mark their area by smell? Or do the cheetahs roar? What all will you study? And from where will you study? All these questions, if you observe, have a common genesis. And that is from the docuseries. Diversify your source. Start looking at the various documentaries such as Our Planet, Blue Planet, Life on Earth, Our Protected Areas. These are available on YouTube as well. Download these from wherever possible. Look at these. Not to start making immediate notes, but internalize. This will help you comprehensively have a synergy between the geographical aspect and the environmental aspect. That approach is required, right? So when you study the portion of environment ecology, what should be the approach? The concepts need to be covered first of all. Now let's suppose any concept that you are studying, pollution. Now what should be the approach? Immediately after that, you need to have a look into associated legislations. Like the Air Act, Water Act, Environment Protection Act, etc. Then after that, associated conventions. When you have taken a look at that, okay, for persistent organic pollutants, you have the Stockholm Convention. Look at the latest developments, latest meetings or developments. By this simple methodology, the burden will reduce. Once it starts appearing organic, that is when your work is done. One by one, cover it, have a logical linkage, and out of the 30 questions that UPSC throws at you in the prelims, you will be easily able to score around 23 to 24 of them absolutely correct. And that is huge. Looking at the cutoff for various different years, imagine if you are getting around 25 questions out of this area itself. You have polity, economy, history, etc. You will be easily able to secure more than 100 marks in the prelims without the blink of an eye. But more importantly, when it comes to the mains examination, your content will be so very solid. No second doubts will be there. So that is the overall understanding which you need to take. So once you understand the approach, just be very regular with it. Just ensure that you prepare the notes and try as many MCQs and PYQs after the completion of each chapter. That will keep you on your toes and will help you understand the lacunae and the various different shortcomings that you can then rectify. Okay? So that will be all for this particular video. I hope that this session has been helpful. I hope now you have got an idea about the areas to concentrate upon, the particular portions, the book list, the sources of materials, and also, more importantly, how to keep it simple. If you have liked this particular video, please click on the like, share, and the subscribe button and leave a comment below about what you felt about the idea and the insight for these subjects. All the best for your preparation. Keep it simple and keep studying and working hard. Thank you and take care of yourself.